The truth about Betanet is that it wasn't ran great when it started. And I'll take full responsibility there, because whenever I made the first ever video about it, there was a ton of confusion. Was this like a crypto rug pull? Was it like what is Betanet? And me using the term internet mistakenly instead of the term web, which is more technically accurate. The fact that I labeled it 1.0 when it should have been like 0.0.1 because it was very early on. There were even some claims that it's AI generated, which it's not. But there were even claims as, there was a ton of people confused like that. And you can sit there and what some project leaders I've seen do before with their own projects is that you can sit there, point the finger, argue, and just dismiss them and go bah humbug and call them dumbasses and all that shit and move on. Or you can realize, wait, what am I doing to cause so many people to be this confused, right? And it really boils down to the fact that I didn't explain things amazingly at first, and then also the transparency could be better. So we are drastic. We are making. I'm really trying to push really hard now to improve the transparency, and I really want to course correct this project. So it starts by renaming the project to Alternet, because a lot of people hated the name Betanet. Listen, I'm very out of the loop when it comes to like Gen Alpha, Gen Z memes and stuff, but apparently like it's the whole like alpha male, sigma male bullshit. You guys remember like the whole Andrew Tate thing in 2022? It's basically like that. It's one of those kinds of terms or whatever. So that whole word has been really ruined by modern meme culture and all that. So a lot of people couldn't take the name seriously, and a lot of people just thought the name didn't sound great. So we ran polls, asked the community, everything like that, and everyone seemed to like Alternet a lot better. So we're changing the name to Alternet. We're hard resetting the versioning, so we're going back. We are going. Listen, it's early enough in the project where we can still course correct and put things on the right path, and that's what I fully intend to do. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing. So we are hard resetting the version number, and we're going back to 0.1, and that's what we're going to stick with until we know for a fact that it is completely and finally ready. Something else, too, very exciting, and something that I know a lot of people are going to like, is that, because a big thing that people were talking about is like, you're just writing the spec. And yes, that's true. We were just originally going to just write the spec. Which means we're not actually going to write the code. We're not going to actually like implement Alternet. We're just going to write the specification for it. That's changed now. We are going to actually implement a proof of concept implementation. So it's not going to be like, 1,000%. Maybe it may not be completely production ready, but it's going to be a viable proof of concept implementation that functions, that works, that meets the spec. And part of the reason why we're doing this now is because you got to think, look, I'm 17 years old, if you guys didn't know that. And I am completely self-taught as far as all the tech-savvy computer stuff that I know. I am completely self-taught, except the fact that I took, because I'm not a programmer. At heart, I am a cybersecurity guy, specifically digital forensics. That I have taken classes on that. I have taken advanced computer science principles. I have taken all the advanced computer science classes and stuff like that too. I have taken all of the cybersecurity classes that my school offered, including the advanced ones. I've taken several cybersecurity courses, everything like that. So my teacher and stuff was he was in the industry for like 30, almost 40 fucking years and stuff. So he's been around for a long time too. Anyways, my whole point is that I did take classes and all that stuff for cybersecurity. When it comes to programming, I didn't. So I've been completely self-taught when it comes to the whole programming side of things. And I'm just a half decent Python dev. I am not, I don't even know C. I don't even know all that stuff. So when it comes to any kind of more complex, lower level stuff like this, asking me to make an implementation, that's just unrealistic. And I think when it comes to trying to run any kind of big major project like this, it's important to know your limits. It's important to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and it's important to pay attention to what you've done right and what you've done wrong. So as far as what I've done wrong, transparency needs to be a lot better. So I'm drastically trying to improve transparency. Another thing is that the bounties came out way too early. when the community fundraised all that money, it was fucking awesome, right? And I didn't want to just sit on that money. I didn't want to just, you know, do nothing with it. I wanted to put it to some kind of use, and I didn't want people to feel like I was just, you know, wasting this money that they raised. So we ended up putting the bounties out there way earlier than they should have been, because the spec was not even close to ready yet, and I already put out bounties to make it real and stuff, and that was wrong. That was definitely a mistake. So consider the bounties dead and stale right now, and then we're implementing a way better bounty system that will be significantly more thorough and way more transparent and just much better. And as far as me not being able to implement the proof of concept code myself, that's why we brought on a new guy into the team. A new guy has joined the Raven development team. He goes by the username Homework, and he has years of experience in the industry as far as like systems architecturing and engineering, and as far as like networking and everything like that goes. So he has some actual industry experience, and he knows what he's doing. And he has way more technical experience. He knows Go, Rust, and everything like that. So he's going to be actually writing the proof of concept, and he's going to be taking the lead on the Alternet project. So I am going to shift from basically running this entire project to kind of more so a managerial role. I'm going to manage the project. I'm going to oversee everything. I'm going to help research, and then I'm going to help design the concept of the protocol and everything like that, based on my vision and what I want Alternet to be. And then I am also, but when it comes to actually like writing the code, and when it comes to actually writing the whole spec and everything, objectively, he's just a better fit for it, because he's, I mean, like, you got to know your limits, right? So he's been hired on. That money that was fundraised by the community in cryptocurrency, which was really cool, by the way. Thank you to all of you guys who did that. That was really awesome. So we want to put the money to good use, right? So $5,000 worth of the total, which I think is like around 43.6 thousand or something like that. $5,000 of those funds is being paid to Homework when he completes the proof of concept implementation and actually completes the spec, the 1.0 of the spec. So he's been hired on for $5,000. We're also planning to potentially bring on one more guy who's familiar with cryptography and networking and has years of experience in it as well, who can also be brought on for maybe around $5,000 too, to also assist. And so they would both be taking charge on actually writing it in code and then writing the spec, and then I would be assisting with research, conceptualizing, using my knowledge of cybersecurity and everything to assist with the cryptography side of everything and like that too, because I have more experience in the whole security side of things than they do even. So it's kind of a good combo, I feel, because he can design out everything while I can give pointers on, you know, the right way to go about it from a security standpoint. And the silent third party, the silent member who has been also, it has been me running Raven, but then there's also a silent partner. If you guys didn't know, he goes by Pharaoh. Pharaoh has been, I'm not going to like share his personal details or whatever, because he's a pretty private person. But he's been a lot less available recently too, so that's increased the struggle with trying to work on the protocol, because me and him both have been working on it. But then, like, you know, the research side of things and everything too, he's been a big help there, but he's been a lot less available recently. So that's, you know, added to why we've needed to do this as well, because it kind of turned into me just doing it entirely myself. And as a result, you know, things slowed down when it came to this project, and, you know, I had less things to share with you guys, less news to share. So why would I make a video about this project if there's like no big major news? So I didn't want to just do that, so I stuck to just making update posts on Twitter and then, you know, my YouTube section and the Discord server. You should join it, by the way, if you want to stay completely up to date with all this stuff. And like, if you even want to directly talk to me, directly talk to Homework, directly talk to the community, if you want to get like as up-to-date info, I yap in there all the time. I am a big lurker. I'm active in our Discord server, so if you want to pop in, say hi or anything like that, you absolutely can. But a 17-year-old, let's just be realistic here. A 17-year-old with no industry experience, self-taught when it comes to programming, and only has like formal experience and knowledge and stuff in like training and all that in cybersecurity, trying to completely make his own, you know, fucking protocol. That's pretty unrealistic. But when you have a team of people who know their shit, when you have this guy who has been, who's taking classes in cybersecurity and stuff, knows what he's doing, then you combine that with someone who has years of industry experience in networking and system architecting, then we can bring on another guy who is familiar with cryptography and networking too. You combine all that together, it becomes way more realistic very fast. Thanks to the community, thanks to you guys, we have the funds. And, now we have one guy to help, and we can bring on another guy. We have the funds, we have the brains, and so now the project, I'm really actually excited for the future of the project, and I really think things are going to start turning around, because things have been very quiet, things have kind of died down, and that's mainly just because of the status of this project and everything, and the fact that it was just me running it, and it was like all that. But now that we're bringing on more people, and now that we're going to be drastically trying to improve the transparency of this whole thing. So me and Homework are going to start doing live streams way more frequently, where we just both sit down and you can just talk to us in chat, answer questions, stuff. And me and him will be openly discussing the protocol, openly discussing all of the details of everything like that. So, and we'll be, I want things to be done behind closed doors as minimally as possible. I want to be as open and transparent with the development of this as possible, because over the last maybe month or two, it hasn't really felt like that. It's felt like a lot of things have been happening behind closed doors, and it hasn't been as open and transparent with you guys. That is not how this project should be ran. And I'm sorry that it took me so long, but we're not too late to course correct. The project's still early enough, and I still strongly believe in Alternet as a project, and I confidently believe that we can get there. So we're going to be pushing transparency drastically. We're bringing on more people. I'm really trying to make this a reality, and I really appreciate all you guys who have been sticking around and supporting me and supporting Raven and supporting this project. I promise you, I will not let your guys' support go to waste. I do not want that to ever happen. I am actively pouring hours of my time into this project because I really want to see it come true. And I hope you guys will, be along with me along the ride. So with that in mind, the rest of this video is going to be stream highlights from the stream that I did introducing Homework. So if you want to see Homework, hear him talk a bit, have me asking questions and, like all that, then we did this little stream. We'll be doing another one really soon, probably the day of this video that gets posted. Most likely we can do it. And we'll be, just staying, we'll be continuing to try to do this. So that's about it. I got finally some big news for you guys. So you guys may be wondering, who's this guy, right? So you can go ahead and introduce yourself here.
I'm Homework, the resident Australian, now on Raven team, to help and consult and build the first viable proof of concept of Alternet, essentially, using my industry knowledge from 5 years of working in a startup as a back-end engineer, specifically specializing in distributed scalable systems, like distributed microservices and clusters, both in like proprietary, engines like AWS, but also self-hosted, like within Kubernetes and Docker. And I have the knowledge to kind of build something that would work in theory. So, my whole job is to, research a way of developing it, design a specification, and implement a proof of concept for people to use, essentially.
Yeah, so
it's like a starting point, like a leaping off point.
We've already been working on as you guys already are very well aware, we've been working on a updated spec. And so part of that spec is where you change the name, obviously. The most immediately obvious change. We're also doing a hard reset on the version number because we're currently on 1.2. Except the versioning is fucking stupid right now. It is so stupid because we should not have done 1.0 to start. Listen, I am a cybersecurity guy. Specifically, I have a focus in digital forensics. That's what I've taken classes for. That's what I've been trained on doing and stuff, right? That's what I have the most experience in. So when it comes to actually building out a protocol like this, I took, advanced computer science courses and stuff. I even took the AP test and all that stuff. But as far as actually like trying to build out a whole spec like that, and then even actually like making an implementation of that spec. A lot of people were wondering why we didn't make an implementation to start off with, and and why do you want us to do it, right? It's like, why didn't you guys just do it? Well, it's because I I don't fucking, like, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not exactly the most experienced guy here. I'm 17 fucking years old, right? So when it comes to that, like, we obviously need someone more experienced, someone who actually has like years in this kind of thing professionally, who knows networking at that kind of level. And so this guy Homework is actually the guy who, if you guys were keeping up with the news and our Twitter account and everything, he's actually the guy who found the vulnerability, the potential vulnerability in bin. So he actually took a look at bin, actually inspected the code, and then the client side code, and then realized that it wasn't actually why am I explaining it? You explain it. You actually explain it.
Essentially they weren't verifying for additional authenticated data, where you check to see if the metadata and other fields are like intact when sending and receiving information from the server. And if it, like, the chunks were misaligned or metadata was like, the incorrect versions and things, if there was a man in the middle attack, someone could be like, what are these chunks doing? And like rearrange the order and do sussy things if they got a hold of the keys. So that's essentially.
So that's, I mean, he found that, like, literally he just, joined our Discord server and just fucking made a whole post, even proposed how to fix it and all that shit. So, I mean, after that, me and him got talking and stuff, and then he started explaining his experience, in the field and everything. And so one thing led to another, really. And then now he's actually brought on, he is now, other than Pharaoh and I, he is now the first, like, he is the third Raven member. We actually brought him on as a member of the Raven development team. So, and his entire focus, his entire purpose and everything like that is he is leading the Alternet project now. So it was obviously before set up where I was leading the Alternet project, but now I've kind of given it in the hands of someone more experienced, someone more professional, someone who knows what the fuck they're doing. I mean, show them the keyboard, bro. You gotta show.
Oh yeah, like
yeah. He's got the programmer keyboard.
Programmer keyboard. I got the iPhone, I got a case on it and a battery sticker. I got the trackball for wrist issues, and then I got the remarkable tablet. I got the MacBook on a stand. I got the drone on my speaker. It's very professional.
I'm sick and tired of the ultra professional shit. I'm sick and tired of the corporatization of the web and everything like that. It's gotten really fucking tiring, So it's nice to actually be able to just like be more human for a change, right?
Exactly. When you have no HR department, what can go wrong?
Well, part of the reason why we did this change is obviously because I am not a professional, and I am not like some kind of genius expert, as some people were. Like, I remember reading some comments and people were like, "You're an absolute genius" and stuff. I conceptualized a protocol. I came up, the very first spec of Betanet was literally more, it wasn't even necessarily a spec, more so just like an outline of a protocol and like kind of just a potential idea, but it had a lot of vagueness to it, missing aspects and stuff, because it was still supposed to be fleshed out. And then 1.2 rolls around and it's a lot more fleshed out, but there's still a lot of problems with it. And I mean, some that if you even go look on the GitHub, you can see people like discussing the PR and everything, and you can see people mentioning some of these issues and stuff, and there's still quite a bit of flaws with it. And it's also, we imagine we just burst in through your door, like start spatting out crazy technical terms and all the shit, then just leave and no elaboration at all. That is the spec right now. There is no like simplified just explanation of here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's how we're doing it, and here's how it ties into everything else. And like, we have examples, a proof of concept implementation. We don't even have that or anything. So and that's not something listen, an important part of running anything like Raven or whatever is to know your limits. And I know my limits, and I know that I am not fucking smart enough to build out my own proof of concept, like actual code for Alternet like that. Which is why, and you know, obviously the Alternet project when it started out could have been better. could have been ran better as far as that goes, because you know, even like the bounties came too early. I just wanted to make use of the money that was fundraised for us. I didn't want it to go to waste, right?
You'll see all the drama on the GitHub issues tab.
I God, the drama, man. Even the drama too, but it's understandable because the launch of Betanet wasn't fantastic, and it's because, you know, obviously we did a debloater, the Talon debloater, which was our first major project, blew up, all that stuff, right? That's like here. a brand new spec to replace the web is like over here. and right, and this is already difficult. So and you know, I didn't run it amazingly. It wasn't an amazing start, but thankfully we're early enough in the project where we can course correct. So that's what I'm trying to do. I want this project to succeed. I want it I want to do right by you guys, everyone who fundraised the money. Zan, who donated 500 to contribute to the bounties. Dude just kind of DM'd me and was like, "Hey, bro, $500. Here you go." Zan's fucking. That is some Giga Chad shit right there. But
can he pay my rent?
my whole point though is that I want this project to succeed. It's I've seen some people. Obviously, there were a lot of people who said shit like, "Well, you know, maybe is Betanet a scam? Is it anything like that?" I don't even blame the people who thought that because like I poorly explained it in the first video. You know that you saw it, right? The first video that was only like 3 minutes long or whatever. I didn't really elaborate. And also the spec was 1.0 when it should have been like 0.0.1 and all this shit, right? Like I really didn't clarify. So, and then the whole crypto shit happened where like people fundraise the money, which is really fucking cool. But obviously with, I mentioned in that video, like the whole voucher system and everything that we were experimenting with. And people were like, they heard that and they were like, wait, what? Understandably, because I didn't explain it, and then the crypto stuff, not it, snowball effect, you know. So I don't even fully blame them, but we're correcting it now, and he is an important part of that. So because we need people who know what the fuck they're talking about, who know what they're doing. We need people who have experience. We need people who are qualified to do this kind of thing, to actually come in and actually do this shit, right? It would be stupid of me to like try to stick to my pride and be like, you know, no, I can do it, and then it just, you know, keep fucking it up, right? I'm still gonna be working on the Alternet project a ton. I've already devoted. I know I'm pretty quiet about it, but literally my life for the past like maybe 2 straight months has been like 80% Alternet and then like 20% of everything else. I have been actually pouring so much time into this project, and I'm still going to be doing that. But now it's at least going to be with someone who's, you know, knows what the fuck they're talking about. I'm done yapping here. I want you to do some yapping. Why don't you just chit chat for a little bit? I want you to talk to the audience for a minute.
I mean, like my experience with work has mostly been, you know, migrating from like, you know, traditional single server based design, like monolith architecture, into distributed microservices. And the way we did that was because we were already within AWS for work. And that was simply because at the time they offered us like $100,000 worth in free credits. And we were like, yeah, that'll give us a couple of months of development and testing in case a server, you know, crashes and restarts on repeat, which has happened a couple of times. Like you push code to production and the server has a crash because of an unresolved issue, specifically with that environment, like a key or a token didn't get fetched properly, and then you get like a null reference, and it's just like, you know, internet boot loop cycle. You have a health check that checks to see if the container's running. If the container isn't running, it restarts the container. And everyone went to bed. It's a Friday. So why you don't deploy on a Friday?
You
Everyone
deployed
went to
on
bed.
a
We woke up on
Friday.
Saturday,
No.
and then we woke up, and there was a $10,000 bill for this fucking server because it restarted on itself just endlessly all
That's
night. And that's
microservices
AWS
for you.
That's just AWS.
That's just,
If you
yeah.
don't
That's
do it
just fucking.
if you don't set up your environment correctly, it's going to cost you a fuckload of money. And that's why I think I've had some discussions with people in the Raven Discord server specifically about that. And I think at one time I was like, at the train station waiting to get picked up, and it was like 2 degrees outside. My fingers were like frozen. So I'm like typing in pain, like, oh, I can't fucking type. Trying to like keep up with the conversation. But essentially, one of the big things that we like decisions we made from the start was to keep everything event driven. So for example, instead of it being, a server that is authoritative and in control of everything, obviously the backend is still authoritative. An event comes in through like gateway or another server that we have running that's just like purely a listener. And then it goes into Lambda, which is like their serverless solution, essentially just like functions in the backend. It's a Rust engine that hosts containers. It's very similar to Kubernetes, where you just have like a microservice that reacts to data essentially, and then it gets sent to Amazon Event Bridge, which is like a queue, but it's parallel. So instead of being one message in, one message out, you can just fucking throw data at it and it just doesn't care. It's awesome. And what we do then is you have specific buses for each event type, so you can like organize things, and you write a rule that says if data with this like pattern matching comes in, like you can like in the event name, make sure it's capitalized, decapitalized. You can do all the data like validation at that step with like a JSON spec. It's a bit fucked, but and then
You
you
are
target
throwing all the buzzwords out right now.
you then target. You send it to another Lambda function, which is like just another function essentially.
You really got to sound like a professional here. You got to really sell the audience.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about my pain. And going from just like one centralized server essentially, like one of the reasons we did this was redundancy, mainly because what we found was that if that one server or cluster of servers goes down, there goes the fucking product. It's offline, and the AWS just had their global outage, and that's pretty scary. I was looking at my work's Discord server, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
It's a good day to be like all relying on AWS.
It was 3 a.m. for me when it happened, so I was asleep. But the other, like, fuck, what was my train of thought? But no, the shift from like, monolith to distributed was also giving me sort of insights when it comes to building potentially a distributed network in the real world. Because I've done work with Matrix's specification in the past. In fact, for a bit, I was working on this project that was nicknamed Northgate, which is essentially, I haven't finished it yet. It's still very, very early progress. It's a better Discord plugin that communicates locally with a client that you're running, which connects to the Matrix network, and you sign in.
You told me about that.
OIDC. So I had it set up with Auth0, so you just sign in with Discord with Auth0, and it shares back just like a random generated hash that does. It's like, that's a production grade. You don't actually need that. I could just probably use Discord's API, but it comes up with a random hash, and that's your username on Matrix, on your home server or the Matrix home server, whatever you decide to run. And then it communicates locally with Discord, and instead of it using Discord's connection to that, instead of using their architecture, it uses the Matrix network. So when you send a text message, it's not going through Discord, it's getting encrypted on your client, your machine, and then being sent over the network. And the main issue I found with Matrix is they rely so heavily on like long HTTP request polling, and it's so fucking annoying when you're trying to, get real-time messages and your network just goes, or you have a lot of, network load and traffic on that home server. And it's not real time. It's very, very far from real time. And you have to constantly keep running a sync function in the background that's constantly just running a GET request to see what the most recent update and state of the network is. And there's been multiple, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like proposals pushed to implement WebSockets or TCP sockets into their specification, but it just keeps going stale for like months on end. There's been one that's been going since 2020, and they just haven't gone anywhere with it. So like distributed messaging and networking is not alien or foreign. It's more so what we're trying to achieve would be similar to how Tor does routing, but not as slow because we're not trying to go for that level of complexity when it comes to anonymization.
I don't want to waste people's time with this stream, so I'm actually going to hit you with some hard hitters. Okay. So a very crucial component to the whole idea of Alternet and the design and everything like that. And a lot of people even questioned what's the difference between Alternet and Tor. Why not just use Tor? Why not just use something like that? And it's because those aren't viable replacements to the web. So the typical web. So you streaming via Tor is like technologically infeasible. It is basically not possible to stream on Tor, like streaming video or anything like that. So good luck trying to deploy like Netflix on Tor, right? The whole idea of Alternet is it's supposed to actually like be capable of everything the standard typical web is capable of, including like streaming video and everything like that. The priority, obviously, Betanet's or Alternet, Jesus fucking Christ, Alternet is supposed to be censorship resistant as a main priority above all else, and then privacy focused second, if that makes sense. So Alternet by design is going to have privacy in mind, but it's not going to be like this ultra private fucking thing like that like Tor is, because the main focus above all else is just preventing any kind of censorship. So actually, with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, because you and me actually, just for the stream, we haven't actually even talked about this yet. We actually haven't sat down and fully talked through this whole plan yet. So let's just fucking do it live.
Hell yeah.
So Alternet, obviously we want to be able to do that stuff. What do you have in mind as far as because you want the design to be completely decentralized, right? The hardest part of any kind of decentralized architecture like that is going to be the discovery. Is going to be actually like, how does your device find the other devices? We can't rely on a DNS system. We can't rely on like a DNS like that, because that's centralized.
My idea for DNS would be like using its design philosophy, but in a way that's like almost federated. So one way that could be done is like similar to how like Matrix has its home server discovery. So it would be each node is like, has its own address and it's verifiable by, whatever system we use to make sure it's like actually, supposed to be run on the network and is like authenticated. There are ways we can do that. But essentially the idea would be that, you want to host a web server, right? You host your web server, you set it up, you set up your reverse proxy, you do all the standard stuff. We would have to implement a method where you provide your like IP. It would probably be like a plugin that we create, because that would be the easiest way of doing it securely. So like Nginx, you would like run a command in Linux and it would generate like a hash. It would be like an IPv6 address essentially. We would probably need to use IPv6 for this network because of
yeah, probably.
and
a lot of people were confused early on actually about like, wait, so because you remember how I made the mistake of using the word or internet early on, and a lot of people started calling it Internet 2.0 and everything. People were like, how the fuck is that going to work? Because like you replace an TCP IP, right? No.
So we would use IPv6 because of address limitations with IPv4, and we don't really want to run into the issues that CGNet uses, where you have like an address
the only
base.
problem with IPv6 though is IPv6 is a fucking catastrophe. Even my fucking networking teacher was telling me when he was like talking in the class, he was like, guys, IPv6 fucking sucks. So
yeah,
it is implemented like dog shit, and it's not even implemented everywhere. So I am kind of worried about that.
A little worried about that. Yeah, that's understandable. My only reasoning for that is because I've looked at projects like CJDNS and Jagersdrill, and they both use IPv6 for a very, very good reason. And that's mostly for how their like node discovery works. You don't have to download a list of all the nodes to connect to them. Instead, it's like they're cryptographically assigned to each other, based on how close they are geographically, and like you don't have to know where they are or who they are. You just have their like.
Well, okay, because that's another thing with Tor. It's like with Tor, you need to download a list that knows where all the fucking relays are and shit. That's not how the regular web works, right? Like you actually just send out a request.
I have an IP address and it's over there.
Yeah, and then it discovers where that is, and then I feel like that'd be a lot better for a lot of reasons. But
And
it's,
that's
you know,
that's just your ISP doing that.
okay, because actually, I want to know your thoughts. How familiar are you with refraction networking?
Not too familiar. I just kind of like understand like the implementation of mesh networks, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Like
well,
kind
maybe
of
I shouldn't, because
behind it.
maybe I shouldn't like start grilling you on questions about it too hard then if you don't really know it. But I will just say, like, I am curious. I guess you're just gonna have to get back to me on that. But I told you already. You've seen it already. I'm sure. Like, we've actually been experimenting with the concept of possibly using refraction networking for Alternet. But I actually there's some caveats though to it, and God.
This is where
So
your expertise will come
the
in handy.
hardest parts is going to be discovery, and then okay, okay, my train of thought came back to me. My fellas, we recovered. This is why I don't do shit live. This is why I don't do shit live, fellas. Okay, so the hardest part is going to be like how easy it is to switch from Alternet to from the regular web, right? Because people are either going to have to like completely redesign their whole fucking shit and like redo their entire networking and stack and everything like that, right? So we've actually been really trying hard to figure out a way to actually make it so that all of these same HTTP like requests that you can make, like GET and post and all that shit, right? We've been actually trying to get it where, like, imagine how great it would be if you could just use your HTTP server that you're already using, like Apache or whatever the fuck, and all you had to do was just like install like some kind of extension to your web server or something like that, right? And then you're like alternate compatible. Maybe you have to configure it a little bit and then you're good, right? Let me fucking fix my camera. It's like going blurry. There we go.
Looking at the
How do you think we could go about that? Because I would really want it so that like I don't have to completely fucking, if I want to get the Raven website hosted on the Alternet network, I don't want to have to completely rewrite all the shit or whatever the fuck, right? I want to be able to just kind of.
So my method would be we implement, and it's like there's two ways to do this, right? So my first way would just to be create like a reverse proxy compatibility plugin. So Caddy, Nginx, etc., or just like use the current system that they use, where you open a port and like then you secure like you have a certificate system between
Would you
like
make
the node
just
network. So
would you make just
you
kind of like
sign
a
to its particular
translation
network.
layer, sort of like it takes the requests and of like HTTP GET and like post and all that, and then it would like translate those into alternate compatible, or do we mimic them, or do we mimic them exactly? Because then the problem is if the HTTP spec changes, we have to change with it.
Yeah, no, so maybe
There's a
like
risk
a
there.
compatibility layer on the server, like just like an application you install. And it's just like you run a command and it takes in whatever requests you have, or you have to like provide a configuration file. That would probably be the best way to do it. So you map out what all your requests are on your server, and then it will take that as a spec and pass it into the application, which then converts it to Alternet protocol. And then we either use like a WireGuard tunnel, which is probably the best option for privacy and security for two main reasons. You just open up an ephemeral port in your router, so that's in a specific port range, or on your like firewall. And what this will do is then it'll then use
There's
the
a big
connection
risk.
to
Okay,
use.
not maybe not so much for the people running websites on Alternet or whatever, but the people using it. So a big part of Alternet that really needs to is obviously it needs to blend in with regular traffic, right? Like regular web traffic. And it needs to, the whole idea is to tie Alternet so closely together with HTTP and DNS where the only conceivable way to possibly block Alternet would also severely damage the regular web in the process. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, of course.
It's
It would
that whole
still
idea of,
look
you
like
remember me mentioning mutually assured destruction? It's that whole idea. We want it so that's the guarantee that Alternet won't get censored, because Tor and everything like that's so fingerprintable. Actually, like for a network operator, that I can see so clearly that you're using Tor. It is not making it hidden that you're using Tor at all. So it is so trivial. Like my school, even everything, any network operator can just block Tor like that. It's not very fucking hard at all.
Yeah. No,
And
the reasoning for WireGuard specifically, you can still make WireGuard traffic look like normal traffic. It's just encrypted the packets, right? and
Well,
then
yeah.
match to the signing key of that server. So then when it's like, you can also do this over quick as well, like a big brain.
Well, you were talking about
You
using a
have a
different
private
port
server.
though. They could block that port.
Yeah,
You got You
yeah,
got to
that's true.
use like 443
Like port 80. Woo! Port
or
80.
I mean, you would use 443 for encrypted because that's
Yeah,
HTTPS.
yeah. Yeah, you would use port 80 to open the connection, then upgrade to 443, like every other server does.
Yeah.
Use 443, transmit the traffic. The WireGuard traffic would then, hit the entry point of the, it would just like discover, I don't know how we would do it, probably just like refraction networking, right? So I'm just looking at the page right now.
Well, okay, because
Interesting.
we're really going to need to put a lot of thought into
into
discovery, because that's a difficult thing. Because obviously we don't
I feel like-
have just a DNS that we can call to, because then the
The
whole
idea for
idea of
DNS is-
centralized then, and that's a whole fucking problem there.
I mean, there is a way. I'm not sure many people will like this. We could technically use blockchain to an extent for DNS without having to pay gas fees, because we'd just be fetching data. When you fetch data off a blockchain, it's like it costs nothing. When you want to write data, that was
actually kind of okay. So a lot of people actually were reading the spec. I don't know if you saw that part of the spec, but I think it was actually, it's not in 1.2, it's in 1.1 and 1.0, I believe. We were actually proposing using 3 different, to keep it from being decentralized, although admittedly it is still kind of centralized. It used like 3 different chains, and they all essentially keep track of, basically, because you also have to think domains, right? How the fuck, do you really want Onion? Have you seen Onion URLs? How fucking long and complex and bullshitty they are, versus like just typing in like, a regular domain name. So discovery is going to be an interesting bit, because the whole concept, a very vital component of Alternet, is we cannot have single authorities, right? Because if there is a singular point of failure anywhere in the protocol, then the whole thing collapses. Because if I'm a government or world, whatever the fuck, right, and if all it takes is me taking down one guy and then everything else falls apart, that ruins the whole idea. It needs to be, there is actually no single point of failure, right, and anywhere in the whole chain.
Concepts of blockchain, but not blockchain itself, to build out like almost distributed DNS. So the actual Alternet network itself is its own DNS network as well as routing. So, you and that's, I don't know how we would do this, like for discovery, to like find the initial node that you connect to, like your entry points and whatnot. That's difficult. I'm going to use like CJDNS, and Jaeger's ruler have already figured this out. So that's why I was thinking about maybe
it's important not to reinvent the wheel. That's actually an important. That's part of the reason why 1.2 is still not good, is because in 1.2 we were trying to do a bunch of shit that we realized half of this already exists, dog.
Exactly. There's already solutions in place. And then the other issue that we're going to run into is working with like ISPs directly, because they're beholden to local laws, and like obviously every ISP in the US has to have a backdoor for the NSA. It's crazy.
That's the biggest problem with refraction networking, actually. Is
for a second.
The biggest problem with refraction networking, though, must have been the wind, right? Is that it actually relies on like universities and ISPs and like big places like that to host decoys that actually funnel all the traffic through it. So the biggest problem there is, and another important part of the ideas behind Alternet, is that you can't run the web on altruism. You can't run the web on the kindness of strangers, right? That's what Tor tries to do. And Tor has been actually really successful, way more successful than I would have ever predicted, and actually just being like, please run this, pretty please, volunteers. Like, but if you're gonna try to actually do like a full-on like replacement for the web kind of thing like that, you can't just run it off of like people just being kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need some way to compensate them. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. That's economic self-sustainability is also a really important factor, and that's kind of a risk with refraction networking, is the ISPs and universities and shit would have to be running it just because they're nice. Like what's the benefit for them, And we could just be like, oh, we'll just give them money, but then it's like, oh, so you're gonna have a central entity pay. Wow. And that's where the whole like kind of voucher whole idea and shit and stuff was being explored, but then there's a lot of like problems there and everything. Because also another thing, we don't want to be a crypto project. We don't want to be just like a.
There's a problem with like crypto and like, you know, as a system.
I don't want to fucking be like a crypto.
You need to pay gas fees. No, see, I know how crypto works, but I'm not a crypto bro. I've done a lot of work with smart contracts and things.
I don't even really know too much about how crypto works. Like I understand it fundamentally as a concept, but the super technicals and everything, I don't understand it.
It's a cryptographically signed decentralized transaction network, essentially.
Well, yes,
and people, I know. Like they saw that the idea of blockchain, and they went entirely financial. That's all they did with it. You do so much more. It's
Listen,
insane.
I have no problem with blockchain. Blockchain tech is really fucking cool. Blockchain tech is really fucking cool, but a lot of people think it can only really be used for finance or something like that. It really can be used for a lot more.
So much more. Like identity management and ID verification. Like I have a whole system for that planned out. But
blockchain for DNS is an interesting concept, but doesn't that introduce centralization risk?
No, because by design, a blockchain network is just a series of nodes in a network all doing things and verifying that data. So what we're building... Nodes. Yeah, true. Well, it depends on who runs the node. And then if you run a node, you get paid. So
yeah, well, that was about to be my next question. I was going to say, why would I run a node?
Funny. So what we're building in like this like DAO that I'm forming with a bunch of European friends, Rust engineers are all cracked. Essentially, what we're building on this new chain called GEM, the Joint Accumulation Machine, which is like new system architecture for blockchain. And what it's allowing us to do, because they've just released the Rust API, so we're looking at how like their like code works. Essentially, it's like AWS Lambda functions on chain. So you deploy your application and it's decentralized across the whole network. And when someone's interacting with it, we're trying to build out essentially like the drivers and architecture to allow people to just build regular applications on top of it. And when their users interact with it, they have no idea they're interacting with a blockchain, because the cost of running these applications is managed by the organization that hosts them, not the user interacting with the application.
Well, that's an important part of Alternet too. We don't want the users to have to be tech savvy or have to understand this shit. It's got to be like the regular web where I can just open up a browser, type in, whatever address, and then just fucking use a website, right?
So the thing that we've figured out with this too is with the GEM system, and because we're building a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, essentially, like you provide it funds, people do bounties, they get automatically paid, it does all the management's all autonomous. And to quote one of the engineers on the team that's been in crypto for like 15 years, like ever since the beginning, basically, he said that we don't need lawyers when we can write the law in code. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it's it's an inside joke. It's an inside. That's not actually true. But no, so the cool thing here is once we've got that architecture built out, I could probably use it to build out a distributed DNS-like system. So, like first proof of concept, right? And that could be like not for obviously for proof of concept will most likely just be the mesh networking and node communication. Actual DNS discoverability is like I have a couple of ideas on how we can approach it. One is like running like something like similar to DNS masquerading on each network, each node. So you release a DNS name into Alternet, and it's like, protocol header.
Well, because we need to do it cryptographically, where like someone can't just spoof as a domain or some shit.
Yeah,
right?
Like that would be certificate based. So we would do that, like all certificates are cryptographic, right? Like, how SSL works. You got your private key, your public key. You verify when it goes to the client's like, oh yeah, this is legit. We saw the signing authority, but the signing authority would be Alternet itself. And it would have to match the signature of the network or the node that released it. And then each node would have to then verify each other based on.
And we're not going to fucking, fuck TLDs, bro. we ain't doing TLDs. So actually, for like a Betanet address, it would be like bn:// and it would just be like Raven Dev Team. There wouldn't be like a .org. It would just be like
I
actually don't understand what the point of the whole .onion bit is in Tor. Why do they do that?
To look cool, but also I think it's just like to verify that it came from the Onion network mostly. Because you still have
wouldn't the BN kind of like signify that?
Yeah,
because
or AN Alternet, yeah.
That's a part I've never understood about Tor, is because it's HTTP at the start, which signifies that it's using the
Yeah.
HTTP protocol, but then the .onion signifies it's using signify it the way it's supposed to be signified. You know what I mean by using like because
Yeah,
you
that's
get what I'm
fair.
talking about?
No, I get what you're talking about. I think also
Because like if you're doing
one issue
FTP,
we're
it's
going to run into
FTP : / right? It's like
the issue we're going to run into with TLDs, like not necessarily like top level domains. That's like not an issue, but subdomains.
oh
That's going to be
shit.
something we're going to have to get down hard because of compatibility with
I
web
just realized
services. Because
something.
people have
Part
their
of the
fucking
risk.
APIs and shit.
No. I just realized something. Part of the risk of the lack of TLDs is that all the names get taken up.
That too.
Because if I have
Unless-
apple.com, apple.net is still free, right?
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? So
Unless
like
we just make it so that the TLD is just like a random like a couple of numbers, like a discriminator or a part of a
yeah, but
hash.
that's just really shitty to type.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe we
It could
could do TLDs, but then there's no authority behind them. Like the
I mean, we could
TLDs
just
are kind
have
of
like
just there to look cool more than anything.
that could work, yeah. It's just like an extra identifier that's assigned.
Just to help keep it so that there's still like options there or something. I don't know. Or
and then we can have like a lookup for TLDs to see if it's taken. So you can be like, if
but then how the
Alternet,
fuck are we gonna
you could have AN / like colon /
get the whiteboard
Raven
out?
dev dot fuck
Get
dot
the
fuck.
whiteboard out.
You have dot fuck at the end, but then if dot fuck's taken, you got to use dot bitch or whatever. I don't know. That's very professional, but no.
I have a really fucking funny idea. What if people can make TLDs?
That's what I mean, right? You can like propose. You can, like, they can
A
just use whatever they
TLD
want,
has to be at least 2 to 3 characters. But then other than that, people can just like make a TLD. You know how fucking funny that would be?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh
like,
god, wait, you know
just
something else I just realized? What about like spam in the network and like malicious servers and everything?
That is just a byproduct of running something like this, unfortunately. I had a
That's gonna be
similar I was
really
on a meeting last night.
How the fuck do you enforce against that when it's a fully decentralized network, right?
So we had this discussion last night.
It's made to be uncensorable. How the fuck
this Rust team that we're building on Jam? We had this discussion with the business people that are in. We brought them to the project.
Yeah.
To like talk to customers and get proper information and follow regulation mostly. But what we ran into was like he was like, how do we like as like a marketing and brand image avoid like people like trying to host abusive material, right? And we're like, essentially what we're doing is providing the infrastructure to run stuff. We don't enforce what you can and can't do because the whole point is to be censorship resistant to an extent.
So we leave it in the hands of the people.
What we can do though, you leave it in the hands of the people that are managing and running these services, but we can also, what we're doing is because it's on crypto and it's cryptographically based, to interact with the network, you still technically need a wallet, right? But the wallet isn't to spend money, it's your identity, like your signing client. So when you interact with that network, you still like leave a trace, right? You can't avoid that. That's just always going to be there. It's like your key has shown up here, and here, and here.
It can be an
and
anonymous identifier, but there has to be.
There is still logs of this behavior taking place. So if something abusive happens and you're an idiot and have bad OPSEC and you expose your identity through like a message, like you say, oh, my name is this, and it's tied to your key, you're fucked. That's your problem, not our problem. That's just bad OPSEC, and that's most what happens in like even in the most like secure and decentralized and anti-censorship resistant networks. People are going to be fucking stupid and release their information because they're stupid, and that's their problem. If they're smart, they can avoid that. They can just have their hash and then a random fucking username, and it's fine. And because there are still methods you can trace through the network, like you got SolScan, for example, you can see every transaction and where it all happened. Coin tumblers, they obviously mix it up a little bit because they like switch out addresses and things anonymously, but it's not necessarily an issue to really like when it comes to curbing abuse. The unfortunate reality with building censorship and decentralized networks is abuse is always going to happen.
Well,
it's
because privacy and freedom is a tool, and
it has consequences.
This is always the analogy that I use. It's that if I give you a hammer, you could either bash someone's fucking skull in with it and commit a murder, or you can like build something with it. It's up to the person wielding the tool to decide. Like a hammer's just a fucking hammer. That's just a tool. It's just sitting on the table, right? It takes someone to pick it up and then decide what to do with it. But it gives you the power to do either of those things. That's just and when it comes to freedom of speech, even and everything like that, freedom of speech means freedom of speech. Like you're gonna hear shit you don't like because they're free to say it. Why the
I'm
fuck?
standing up. 1 second. I'm standing up. I'm standing
I
up.
just see, I
Yeah.
just see you fucking like slowly.
Oh, there we go. I can
Oh,
fucking
now
stretch
you're
my. Oh
now
my
you're
god.
really in a
Oh,
like executive meeting right
no, it's
now.
going down again. Fuck, hang on. Why was it doing that?
You got the fucking
Up
like
again?
standy desk or whatever the hell, man.
Yeah, the IKEA standing desk. It's awesome. I can stretch my legs. Oh, the problem is I'm like 6'4", so my mic doesn't quite reach.
Dude,
Tall.
this is how they know you're legit. You got the standing.
Yeah, I just fucking adjust my monitor so it's eye level. There we go. Ugh.
But anyways, my whole point was that, you know, that's the cost of freedom.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
And yeah, exactly. There's going to be people that do bad shit, but that's just human nature, right? We're all capable of terrible things, and that's the nature. That's free will. For
I
you.
would
You know, I
rather
got the
live in
free
a
will to
world
go
where I
jump over
can
the
be
counter
free
and
and there's bad things than a world where there's technically no bad things, but I have no freedom.
Yeah, but also you can, because we're providing infrastructure, we can
Yeah,
still like provide
we're just
users with
providing
tools
like
to
the
submit.
whole
Like,
setup of
so
everything.
the example of this is like, you know, like Mastodon, right? Which is a bad example because they're just fucking annoying.
Mastodon is, listen, I actually hate federated networks. I fucking Blue Sky even. I fucking hate federated bullshit like that because it never
The cool
works.
thing, the thing with Blue Sky and the AT protocol is not necessarily that the tech is bad. It's just their implementation is, you know,
Their
it's obviously one-sided.
implementation is the problem. You, if I make a Mastodon or oh my, look at my fucking camera, dude. I got.
Hell yeah.
It's like when you die in a fucking Call of Duty game and it just okay. My problem with Mastodon and Blue Sky and all that is if I make my own Mastodon server, if I make my own Blue Sky, and I say this is just purely a hypothetical example here, fellas. Don't fucking cancel me on Twitter or nothing. But what if I said, like, you know, Donald Trump is, like, amazing or something like that? What if I started, like, saying a bunch of shit that some other people disagree with? I can get, my server can get blocked by all the major guys because they all have, like, a fucking coalition. And then they all, like, block all the fucking... They could block me out of the network entirely. And then it fragments the whole thing. And so Mastodon and Blue Sky and all that are these giant fragmented networks of like little clusters that are all independent but also connected, and it's like it makes it so fucking annoying to use.
And that's the thing, because Blue Sky is just a proof of concept essentially of the AT protocol. You can do so much more with it. You can technically just remake YouTube if you wanted, but the beauty of how it works is you run what's known as like there's parts you can self-host, like your personal data server, which is what I like about it, because I'm like, personal data like ownership is important, especially when it comes to like websites and people just being able to like go, yes, your email address, this is the behavior you partook in, I'm going to sell you ads, yay. What Blue Sky allows you to do, and like all the AT protocol at large, you host your own personal data server, which and then when you you know, make a change, like make a tweet or like say a comment or something, that gets recorded through like authenticated sign-on to your personal data server, which then federates out using what they call the big pipe, which is essentially just a big fire hose like socket of events decentralized across the whole network, back into the app view, which then checks to see if it's your repository, because it's like a key to go, oh yeah, this repository, this is this user. It checks to see, and then uses DNS to authenticate and say that it's you. They like they piggybacked off of it. And it's like instead of like a blue check mark, you put an A record or a specific DNS record into your like website, and it's done. That proves that you're you, because only like, for example, New York Times, you can't spoof someone else's DNS that easily. You have to get like log into their provider and like put it in yourself. Essentially, that's how that works. So event updates, things happen, does it automatically in the background, but you can have all your data on your own server, and then if you decide, oh, I want to, you know, switch providers, you can just export and change, and it's fine. The issue right now is they don't support encryption. There's no nothing's encrypted. It's all there in plain text. They don't have any ways of sharing. Like their DM system is entirely centralized. When you send a direct message on it's going through Blue Sky servers.
Yeah, that's the problem.
they haven't fixed that yet, but they said there's a spec update coming. So I think some of the like methodologies and design decisions that they've taken to build out their communication and like federation systems, I think we might use, like the event stream, right? So you're running a node. It wants to receive an update from the network. you have just basically like this, like on multiple ports or channels, or maybe it's randomly selecting, and it uses some method to determine that and communicate with other nodes in the network over quick. Like here's an update I got. Here's some data that I received. Send it over, like an update to the spec or an update to the network, or it could even be like DNS, right? Like I was thinking about like distributed DNS.
I hate to interrupt you, but I just want to make something clear. I hate the idea of a network where my device is communicating with a bunch of other devices on the network and all that kind of shit like that. Because think about the way the web works. It's not like that. If I want to talk to a server, I say, I want to talk to you, and then I just talk to you, and then it like talks back to me, right? It's not like in the background
So
while I'm sitting on my desktop, without connecting to anything. It's not like, well, minus telemetry and Microsoft bullshit. Disregard telemetry for a second. Like you know what I mean? I'm not actually secretly in the background like connecting to a gazillion other things. Although I guess that's going to be kind of tricky to do, because without DNS, how the fuck do you do that? But that's the design model that all of the other privacy focused networks have followed so far. And I don't know if I entirely like that idea, because you got to think also from a privacy perspective. If you're communicating with everyone else on the network, you're basically calling out to the fucking heavens, hey, everyone, I'm here, right?
So that's an interesting thing with Jam, and that they've discovered with like their communication. They use Quick as well to communicate with each nodes, but they don't
Quick
have a
is
constant
awesome.
connection.
I fucking love Quick.
They don't use what's known as gossiping. They just like where the connection, like that's the problem with blockchain right now, is every node is always constantly connected to every other node. They only connect to nodes when updates are needed. So if something needs to happen, it goes, oh, okay, like how's your state looking? Oh, this, like, it looks at the blockchain record and goes, okay, this is the state of this node, just by looking it up, and goes, does it need an update? Yes. Boom, sends a message over, done. Could use something similar to that, where it's like a distributed like database almost. So what we usually use in like distributed systems normally is GraphQL. Like we have a cluster of Kubernetes servers just fucking on a massive like server with like 80 CPUs and like 400 gigs of RAM, and then all these servers are just running independently as little nodes, and then you have a federated GraphQL layer that sits on top of that, and you use that to access data from each node simultaneously. And then if you branch that out into like a much larger network, we could use something similar to how blockchain does it, where it's like, check a record, done, cool, done. Like get the state, and then check time slots and timestamps to make sure everything's in sync. And then if a server like over in like fucking Asia needs an update, it can request out to the network, like send out like a request to just a bunch of fucking addresses that I'd seen before. We could do like historical node discovery. So like after it's connected to something, it's like, oh, this address here, cool.
And okay. The only problem with that though is you're talking about like caching the result, right? Only problem with that is like, what if the destination changes?
Well, then it would like, reach out to that node, doesn't get a response.
Reach out, if no response, try to refresh. It's like try to get it again or something. But then like
pull down a record for a chain.
Well, I guess speed isn't necessarily too bad of a problem there. But like I thought of a potential way to go about it, but the idea that I had would mean that the very first time you ever try to connect to something, it's going to be slow as shit. But then every other time you try to connect to it, it's going to be fast and normal. Yeah. Like imagine trying to type youtube.com for the very first time, it'd be super slow as shit, but then after that it would be like normal speed.
Yeah, instant. It's like similar to how subnets work, maybe. Where you have like an address space, and then there's like a range of addresses that you use to communicate with, and it just uses that instead. So rather than you knowing the destination, like CGNAT, for example, that's a really good example of like how this works. It's like your phone, when you connect to a cellular network, it has an IP address, but it's not really an IP address. It's like it uses your IEMI, which I hate. Like you're like, oh, this device, we fucking know who it is, constantly. But it has like an address space with a specific subnet, and then it leases those addresses before you connect, and then you connect, and it's like, okay, this is your address while you connect to this tower.
That's interesting. Okay, but then the only problem is, what about the limits to that?
It depends on how large your address space is, because like they use the 10.0 address, and then you can have 10.0, you could have like, or you could do like 1.0 to all the way through to like, I don't know, you could have a couple 100,000 addresses, and then if they all get used up, you just switch over to the next subnet and the next subnet and the next subnet. And then you run into the issues of routing, but we could maybe adopt that model, which then would also add compatibility for mobile devices. It would add
That's actually an interesting idea.
It would add compatibility for Starlink, because Starlink uses CGNet. That's why you can't get a static IP address on Starlink without paying a huge amount of money, because it's always changing connection. It's always like connecting to a different satellite as it's passing overhead. Like my Starlink, it's not. I haven't paid my bill in a bit, but it's over there on the front lawn.
Oh, you actually have it, dude.
I'm using my parents' internet right now, which is god awful.
You're not worried at all about being doxxed?
No. My IP address is always changing. I also got a Pi hole connected, and that's just filtering out all my telemetry.
No, I'm talking about you fucking showed a picture of your outside your window.
Oh, no. I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere right now. Good luck finding where I live. You need that geoguessr
Well, you're
guy.
using
Like,
Starlink,
okay,
I think. Yeah. Put that together.
But, yeah. Hello.
Actually, why don't you answer one more question for me? It's just kind of a little interesting personal question.
Why? Because
privacy, like what's your values on privacy and freedom and everything like that? Like, obviously minus money. Why the fuck? Why do this?
So working for a social media company for 5 years has opened my eyes to how much they know about you. Like the sheer fucking volume of data that these companies just suck out of you, and then they're like, oh yes, we now have this like leverage point because we know exactly who you are, all your behaviors and everything, and we can then use that to our advantage to generate profit at the expense of you. And I'm like, I fucking hate that. I just fucking hate it. And I would rather build tech that actually helps people, which is why I just recently applied for a job at a company that does telehealth provisioning, and they help with like speeding up healthcare times and whatnot, and that's like back end stuff. And it actually helps make a difference in people's lives rather than writing a massive system that's designed to collect your data to give analytics to content creators, and then it predatorily, because what I was building is kind of fucked when you think about it. What it was supposed to do, and I've stopped building it because I'm just like, I'm so burnt out, I can't work on this anymore. What it would do is you would connect your Discord account to our platform, you'd connect your Twitch account, you'd connect your Shopify, Spotify, and it would, in the background, it would just be siphoning back your data and figuring out all your patterns. And then if you listen to this specific artist and then, went and watched their YouTube video, and then you went and looked at their stream and talked in their Discord server, you would get points in our app. You can then use those points to buy rewards using the money that we got from that partnership. So it's like directly reinforcing your parasocial behavior for rewards, while we give all that data to the creators and be like, here's your analytics and here ways you can prove in growth. And I was just like, ugh. So
yeah, that's pretty fucking scummy. That's a lot like the Microsoft points. I have friends who unironically use Bing because they're like, but my points.
Yeah, but that's essentially, we're building a loyalty program for the web, and the multiplayer part on top of that, which I won't get too much into because I don't really want to leak my employment.
David
essentially
Lee
what
said,
it would do is,
we don't want the internet becoming the great firewall of China.
No, that's true. But what we were doing is we're trying to build out systems that allowed you to form like communities across multiple apps, which from like a business perspective, a content creator is kind of smart because it's like, it allows you to have one place where your whole community can get together and talk and socialize.